Alright, bro, all of you. Yeah, here we go. All of you. Here we go. Yep. You got it. All of you. That one's all you. Yep. That one's all you. Yep. Here we go. Yep. Yeah, good stuff. What's up, guys? Austin Yoakum here. Back with Anatomy Tuesdays, the 4th. We're covering the most sexy muscle on the body. Beefy back. Beefy lats. Beefy traps, maybe. Just a bunch of steak on us. We're in this brand new facility, dude, and it's beef week, baby. Let's cover it.
Right. Starting out with the latissimus dorsi, the lats. It's going to originate on the spinous processes of T7 through L5, this thoracolumbar fascia and the iliac crest. And it's going to come up and insert on the back of the humerus here. Its actions are going to be to adduct, extend, and medially rotate the shoulder. And then we have the serratus anterior. Serratus anterior is going to originate on the ribs, come around to the border, the medial border of the scapula. Its action is going to be to protract the scap, and it's going to be really important to stabilize the scapula on the back of the thoracic cage. And it's innervated by the long thoracic nerve, which we'll get into later. Then we have the rhomboids, major and minor. Major supports minor. It's going to be the middle back here. It's going to insert on the medial aspect of the scapula coming from the middle of the spine, and its actions are going to be to retract the scaps, really important in any horizontal pulling motions. And then finally we have the traps. And the traps are going to originate on the base of the skull, and these cervical spinal segments here, they're going to insert on the clavicle, the scap, and their actions are going to be to elevate the scapula for any shrugs like that, and also to adduct and rotate the scap. So, super important muscles. They're going to be critical for any scapular mobility and stability.
Good. So after Mark used me as a piece of meat and used my beautiful back, like, why should we really care about this?
Yeah, so from a real life application standpoint, I want to talk about posture being a big issue. So if these muscles that we just talked about are weak, if there's a muscular imbalance, a lot of times we're going to see that scapula, which is supposed to be glued to our thoracic cage, it's kind of going to be in that anterior tilt. That's going to lead to these shoulders being rolled forward, our forward head carriage, especially when we talk about students, desk workers, guys who are sitting around all day. If your shoulders are rolled forward and your head's forward, it's going to put a lot of extra stress on your cervical spine. So I challenge you to sit up straight, shoulders back, retract those shoulder blades. You're going to feel a lot better. So now that we've hit the posture, we've hit the somewhat important stuff, let's get to the real nitty-gritty.
The real important stuff in life.
The real important stuff. The women. We've done a couple clinical trials of this. We actually asked one girl, and she said that a good set of back muscles is one of the most attractive things guys can have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's where we just realized, like, what more do you need?
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Right. Okay, so now that we've covered kind of the poor posture, the rounded shoulders, how that can impact athletics, let's talk about how we can fire these muscles, how we can train these muscles, and some different cues that we can use to work on it. So first thing, I'm going to have Austin turn around here. We're going to work on just contracting and retracting the scaps here and contracting the rhomboids. So a little pencil test. I'm going to put a pen right at the center of Austin's back. He's going to squeeze, retract his scaps, and the pen's going to stay. He's contracted, he's holding these tight, and that's really important. That's the activation that we want. Beautiful. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is scapular winging. It's a pretty common problem I see with a lot of athletes and a lot of people in general. So that when we're talking about observationally, we're looking at just the scapula kind of flaring off of the rib cage. Austin doesn't have it because he's just got great back muscles. But when we look at it, we're talking about possibly an issue with the long thoracic nerve. So if neurologically our serratus anterior, which is going to be responsible for pinning our scap on the back of the rib cage, if that's not firing properly, then we're going to start to see that winging. That's going to be really important when we talk about just our foundation for a lot of overhead movements, a lot of overhead lifts. Now granted, when we put a load onto their shoulder, that scap should stabilize, but if it doesn't, then we have a lack of motor control. So one thing I want to talk about for lack of motor control is just a couple more cues. And this is just a really easy one to do when we're doing our push-ups. So Austin's going to go down, and as he comes up, he's going to protract his scaps as much as possible and really focus on that serratus anterior and just cueing that muscle to fire in a simple movement like a push-up. So I challenge you guys to do this. Simple movement, start cueing your serratus anterior and help with that scapular winging.
Good, so now that we know about these problems, how do we really attack them and get that sexy back the ladies are looking for? So one thing we're going to talk about right away is the mobility of that T-spine, hips, and internal rotators. So right now, a lot of people, we're stuck in this position. We already covered that. How do we fix that? How do we attack that? We want to mobilize a lot of the chest areas and a lot of the lats that are really internally rotating us. We want to be able to pull ourselves back, so we want to mobilize. So an SMR, put a lacrosse ball into our chest, rolling out that spine, a lot of stuff that we can really free ourselves up with those internal rotators. And again, another point that goes back to string theory is if our hips are in that anterior pelvic tilt and we're stuck in this position, a lot of times our upper back compensates and we are stuck with a bad T-spine mobility and we're really stuck in this position. So if you attack your hips first, a lot of times that frees up a lot of people's T-spines and we're able to go from there.
Okay, so now that we've mobilized the T-spine, let's talk about how to strengthen it, how to stabilize these muscles in the back. What we want to look at is a lot of pulling motions, a lot of high volume pull motions. And we want to talk about band pull parts. Rather than maybe doing dumbbell rows, barbell rows, put the ego aside, work on these kind of slower movements and really work on contracting these muscles and stabilizing these muscles. So,
like Mark said, band pull parts. Like all my athletes know, I always have a band ready, baby. Band pull parts. Simple exercise that many people mess up. We really want to focus on straight arms here, wrist flat. I don't want to see anything like this where we're just pulling and we're creating more of a deficit than a benefit of this exercise. Keep those shoulder blades back. Get the posture that you want to train in, and we're squeezing tension through this whole entire motion. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Just like if somebody were to put their hand in the back of your spine, you'd be able to break that hand. You're really squeezing, retracting through there. Good, so now that we covered the upper back, let's really cover the traps, baby. Biggest cue here is shrugging for the traps we want, not the traps we have. So when we see a lot of bros shrug at your global gym, we see a lot of chicken necking and a lot of building the form and positioning that we're already stuck in. What we really want to focus on is bringing the shoulder blades back. Jordan Peterson would say stand up tall with your shoulders back, and when in doubt, keep your chest out. And we want to squeeze to the traps. We want to squeeze to those ears, baby. Neutral spine, we're staying here, we have a glute squeeze, core tight, and we're not using any of our lower body, we're squeezing at the top. Another big cue here is really slowing down and pausing at the top for 3 seconds, causing your muscles to grow up there, telling them to stay up here, we want to stay up here, we want to be this big, baby, and then slow and controlled on the way down. We don't want any of that text neck. We don't want any of those momentum reps coming in.
okay, so the injury prevention stuff, the band pull parts, that's all great. But what if I'm a bro and I'm just trying to bench a lot?
Dude, that's a really good question. It's one I receive a lot. And the bench, if we're going to be honest, is a pretty important lift. It makes you look sweet. But the single most important factor in a big bench, and what most people are missing, is a big back. If you guys set up on a bench correctly, and we have an Instagram video about how to set up on a bench correctly, go check it out. You really want to keep that shoulder blades back and your lats engaged that entire lift. If you don't have a strong upper back and you don't have a back to really push through with those legs, your bench is going to be pretty much garbage and you're just going to be stuck in this position. You're not powerful in this position. We really want to be able to pull ourselves back, push through that upper back. Our back is strong, which is going to make the rest of our lift much easier. We're going to be able to bench a lot, and that's all the girls care about, guys.
June 29th.
Boatchella. See you there.